So the next one I want to talk about that is another one I've never really taken, and I haven't seen it used a lot, but I want to talk about is Keen Mind. I know from few people I have seen it. You get that benefit of always knowing which way's north. You always know exactly how long it is until sunset, and you can always recall anything that you have read. And you always get a +1 to your intelligence ability. So with the proposed rules, you always get that +1 to your intelligence. Again, don't forget, feats are always going to give you a bonus to your ability score, a +1. So it makes it easier to decide to take a feat. Under the Keen Mind, they've now changed it a little bit to where now they have what is called lore knowledge. On a lot of these feats now, they're really leaning into what's called the expertise, right? They've got these new expertise classes. They're now leaning into giving people the ability to have an expertise in certain classes. So what you're able to do with Keen Mind is either add your proficiency modifier to an ability. So let's say you're not proficient in investigation right now. You can become proficient in investigation. Let's say you're already proficient in investigation and you want to make yourself better in that. You can get expertise in investigation. So you can double your proficiency modifier bonus in that ability score. And finally, the other thing they're going to do, and I'm going to get into the new actions in a future video, but as part of the Keen Mind, you can get what's called Quick Study. It'll allow you to take the study action as a bonus action. Not to spend a lot of time on actions, but I'm just going to do a quick reading of the study action. So the proposed rule for a study action is when you take a study action, you make an intelligence check to study your memory, a book, a creature, a clue, an object, or another source of knowledge, and call to mind an important piece of information about it. So what that means is you'll be able to do that as a bonus action. In the heat of battle, when things are shifting around and you need to figure out something about an object or something that you're trying to get to, that could be a really beneficial skill set to have. Right, I'm gonna skip one. I'm gonna go to another feat that I know is used a lot, and I'm gonna go to Observant. I think what they're trying to do with this one is, I think they consider, and I think in a lot of cases you would consider, Observant can make someone really overpowered. I can tell you my highest level, my only level 20 cleric has Observant feat. Their passive perception is 26. That makes it really hard on a DM, and it wasn't just 26 when I hit the 20th level. It was in the low 20s when I was in like 7th or 8th level. So even though it was cool to have a super observant character, it probably made it hard for my dungeon master to be able to do things that he wanted to do because my cleric was so observant. Once again, what they're doing here is they're leaning into that expertise. In this case, they have an ability called Keen Observer. You can choose either your investigation or your wisdom and become either proficient or expert in either one of those. Once again, you're not getting a +5 to your passive perception and passive investigation. You could be technically putting like a +4 or +3 to your passive perception and your actually active perception. The other thing it allows you to do is do the search action as a bonus action. Just to cover it, because I don't want to kind of just throw it out there so nobody knows what it is. The search action, when you take a search action, you make a wisdom check to discern something that isn't obvious. And then they have a table of recommended abilities for the DM to use when you're searching. So for example, if you're trying to check a creature's state of mind using the insight, if you're trying to check a creature's ailment using a medicine check. So essentially a lot of these checks, I think one of the things some of these feats are going to do, it's going to allow a dungeon master to press more into having, when people want to do a perception check, really making them use their action to do that. I know a lot of us will say, hey, do a free perception check to see if you see something. A lot of that, I know for me as a dungeon master, is motivated by me wanting the players to see something. if somebody's going to build their character around a feat like this, I want them to be able to benefit from being able to do that as a bonus action. So that's something I would factor into a scenario. So now I want to talk about mounted combat. Mounted combat, they didn't change a lot. A lot of the features are still available. They've just broken them out a little bit, made them a little bit clearer. One thing they have done is added what's called Mount Handler. This gives you advantage on doing animal handling checks on your mount. So to me, that's beneficial, right? Because if something spooks your horse, you should have the ability to understand your horse and have a better demeanor with your horse or your mount, which I totally get. You have an advantage on that. Beyond that, it has Mounted Strike, which gives you advantage when you're mounted and you're making an attack on something within 5 feet of your mount that is at least one size smaller than it. It also has a feature called Leap Aside. This is similar to, it makes me think of Shield Master, which basically if you're on your mount and it's rolling to take like an area of effect spell, and it's rolling to see if it takes half damage. If it passes, it leaps aside and takes no damage. That's pretty cool. The other thing that I love, and I love this from a role-playing standpoint, is what's called the Veer ability. And you currently have this under the Mounted Combatant, but I think it's cool that if your mount is being attacked, you can use your Veer ability to absorb that attack. From a role-playing standpoint, I think that's awesome. If I ever create a Cavalier, I actually have a character. Yeah, it has a backstory that it has a gorilla as its mount. It's a halfling. When I get to play that character finally, I think my character would have such a tight bond with that gorilla from its backstory that anytime possible, I would want to take damage to prevent my mount, my friend, from being hurt. Love the Veer ability. The next feat I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about 2 feats. I'm going to talk about Sharpshooter and Spell Sniper. Very similar in the abilities you're going to get for each of these. One is a ranged attack action, the other is a ranged spell attack. Sharpshooter is a little disappointing, and I think this is going to get probably a lot of negative feedback. It makes sense to me because I think they're probably looking at the current Sharpshooter as maybe a little overpowered. First, you're still going to be able to ignore 1/2 and 3/4 cover. You're still going to be able to, if you're within 5 feet melee range, you won't suffer disadvantage to use your ranged attack. And using your long range, you will no longer suffer from disadvantage for that. Now, it's not going to double your range any longer. So where people, I think it's a cool concept, but I don't know anyone who really took advantage of that. But I certainly know a lot of people who would take advantage of being able to be at their long range maximum and not suffer from a disadvantage. I think that would be used. What they've taken away, that ability to take that -5 penalty and get a +10. That's no longer in the proposed rules. That would not be available any longer. I think I understand the reason they want to take it away, just because it's kind of an overpowered ability. But I also think that if you're willing to take that gamble, it's worth the reward. I think that's probably something I'll provide feedback on, that I think it should be up to the character if they want to take that risk reward. Now, again, you run into the same thing as I talked about in Great Weapon Master, is that if you have advantage, you're going to take that -5 almost every time. I don't know anyone who doesn't. So maybe that's what they're trying to take away from. Spell Sniper, very much the same. You ignore 1/2 and 3/4 cover. You can cast that ranged spell standing within 5 feet of somebody. And they've changed it to where if a spell you're casting has at least a 10-foot range, you can tack on another 60 feet to that. I think that's fine, because I don't know of a situation to where you're going to, let's say you're casting Fireball, you can be up to 180 feet away as opposed to just 120 feet. in a normal gaming scenario, I don't know when you would ever be further than 180 feet away from combat. So, but it gives you that added benefit and that added range. Thanks for watching these Feats videos, guys. I hope you enjoyed them. If you have any comments on the feats, I'd love to hear your opinions. If there's any feat I did not cover in these 2 videos, let me know. I'll take a look at them and cover them, or give you my feedback in the comments. I always answer every comment people leave. I love to interact with you guys down there. If you thought this video was worth it and you enjoyed the content and you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate your subscription. In my last video that I'm going to put out, I want to talk about the different actions, and there's a few different changes to spells that I'm going to talk about. So come back, join me then, and until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.